Good morning once again, Nigeria. Welcome to Rapid Dawn right here on Rapid Television. It is the 9 o'clock hour. My name is Martha Alu.
My name is Victor. Okay, welcome to the big conversation this morning.
Exactly. And we know one of the most talked about things today would be the general elections that, are upcoming, what our preparations are being made. And in exactly 6 months, Nigerians will go to the polls again. The presidential and National Assembly elections are billed for January 16th of 2027, with governorship and state assembly polls following on February 6th. Now, both before we even get there, INEC has a dress rehearsal on its hands, which is the Osun State governorship election, just 3 weeks away, which will happen on the 15th of August. And right now, this morning, the window for the continuous voter registration exercise is closing. It was supposed to end on the 10th of July, but it was extended by 3 weeks. It will now end on the 24th of July. That means as we speak, Nigerians have only 4 days left to register or correct their voter details before the registration is frozen for claims and objections. Now, at the same time, INEC's own chairman, Professor Joash Amopitong, has told the country the commission is considering a full technology audit and a mock presidential election, prompted by concerns that go all the way back to the technology failures of 2023. Now, with 6 months on the clock, considering it's a word that should make every one of us sit up. There's also a new law in play. The Electoral Act of 2026, signed in February, now takes electronic transmission of results a legal requirement, not just a promise. And for the first time, recognizes the national identity number as one of the accepted documents for voter registration. Now, whether these changes translate into credible vote or simply give us better language to describe the same old problems is what we intend to find out. And this morning, we have with us Mr. Wilfred Ifoga. He is the Deputy Director of Information and Publicity at INEC. He will walk us through exactly where the Commission stands on Osun, on the National Register, on the mock election, and whether Nigeria is truly ready. So we will be getting the facts exactly from him this morning. Good morning, Mr. Wilfred.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Nice.
Welcome, sir.
It's good to have you join us in the studio. I mean, we've had interviews with you about 2 times, and it's the first time you're here with us. So thank you so much for making our time.
Thanks for having me once again.
All right, let's move on to, the question from my introduction, which will be what most Nigerians would want to find out. Do you think that INEC is ready, as we speak, to get into the elections?
All right, the commission is ready. And remember, last year, the notice of election was actually publicized, to be precise, on the 13th of February. But later, that was when we were still operating with the old Electoral Act of 2022. So when 2026 was reenacted, there was a review of our activities. That now saw the change of the dates for the election. Now at January 16th for the Presidential and National Assembly elections, while for the governorship and the State House of Assembly election, February 6th. But I want to correct one during your intro. For the registration exercise, actually the extension is by 2 weeks, not 3 weeks.
Oh, 2 weeks.
Yes, 2 weeks. So in terms of our preparation, we have 13 activities outlined in the election timetable.
Okay.
So as we speak, we are the 4th, which is the submission of the nominated names by the political parties. And thereafter, the next one, which is the 5th activity, will be publication of these information. Okay, so as these activities come, we definitely implement them. For now, we have not actually come across any hitch in the implementation of these activities. Most of them are, the other stakeholders are directly involved, while some of them, it has to do with the commission carrying out the implementation. So apart from that, the commission has been involved in a lot of capacity building, training of the staff, and engagement in other activities. Even procurement activities are ongoing even as we speak. Inspection of likely vendors and to see their capability of being able to deliver on what we need in order for us to be able to conduct these elections. Then that now takes us right to the issue of the Osun off-cycle elections that is coming up on August 15th. Remember, before now, we had one not quite long in Ekiti. Yes, from Ekiti, there was an improvement in terms of our logistic plan. Although there are a bit of challenges, and other pockets of other issues, which we actually took record of and working on that to ensure that in Osun, such will not repeat itself. Because I remember in one of the engagement in the situation when we said the compliance in terms of early opening of poll was about 94%. The chairman now said, no, he said we should be able to do 100%. But we were just laughing to say, this was something very good compared to other outings. Yes, we can do it, we can achieve it, not just only on INEC side, but also on other collaborators. Yeah, for Osun, for all the activities being implemented, the next one that will be coming soon is the publication of the results, the register for the elections. Osun has 30 local government area. They have 332 registration areas. And in terms of the polling units, they have 3,763 polling units. And their voting strength is over 3.2 registered voters, 2.3 million, yes, registered voters. So that is what we will be preparing for in terms of their election. They've had a series of engagements, even for voter education and publicity, ours is currently ongoing. We engaged them in implementation of sensitization program. And recently, we also from the department engaged the media on our activities, especially the electoral framework, the pattern the election is going to take, and also, of course, the technology involved. So we also engage them so that in the discussion, just as we are having now, they will be informed even before engaging. So these are part, then even the planning and monitoring department, the operations department, all these are on ground. Even as we speak, they are carrying out their various activities in Osun preparation. Then, towards the end of this month, the Honorable Chairman and other commissioners and other top management staff will also visit Osun for a readiness assessment to be sure of what they have on ground, how far they've implemented up to that stage. Because that visit also, we see the chairman, apart from engaging them on what they have done so far, he will also engage the staff, engage other collaborators, especially the vendors, the transport owners. He will also pay a courtesy call on the traditional rulers to seek their support as well, and all the stakeholders during that period. Then he is going to have an expanded stakeholders meeting in Osun as well before he comes back to Abuja. So these are some of them. And for now, we've not actually experienced any hitch in terms of our preparation. Even engagement with security agencies also on a very high alert right now, so as we engage them before that.
Now, the INEC chairman as well, Professor Josh Amupiton, he recently announced that INEC is considering a full audit of its election technology and also a mock presidential election before 2027. Now, what convinced the commission that these measures are necessary?
All right. In 2023, we had one issue, and that is what anytime we are in any public discourse, people say, okay, they'll talk about the glitch and everything like that. So primarily, I think when the current chairman came in, I think one of the questions is what actually happened and things like that. So we found out that because of the technology involved, most times, yes, we do appreciate the use of technology, which definitely improves working pattern and ensures that errors are not made, or even when they come up, it is easily, taken care of. So somehow, why these innovations do come in, there was no time to actually test to see, just in case of some cases that you least expect comes up. Yeah, we've been using the BVAS, upload of the results on the IREF, yes, at off-cycle elections, and they were going on successfully. And also, we have different kinds of elections, depending on the kind of office. Remember that day they had the presidential election in 2023. Also, the National Assembly elections took place. But a lot of persons were not really concerned about the National Assembly results, and everybody was after the presidential election. So everyone wants to see what is happening with the presidential results. But the system was not robust enough as at that time to be able to take the traffic of everyone trying to go through, and they didn't probably envisage that. So we never had maybe time to do a mock trial of how this is going to be nationwide. Are you getting it? So part of the decision taken was that before we engage in any major activity, we will test run the equipment and what we have. So even for the FCT election, there was a mock trial. Ekiti too, there was also a mock trial. Oshun, we are still going to do a mock trial. Then for the big one, which in preparation of the 2027 general, yes, the chairman promised, yes, it's not. I want us to remove that term, presidential. People are looking at it because already there's this narrative that is already going around. Oh, INEC wants to do something sinister. You understand? No, we're only going to test our equipment. It's not because it's presidential election, but we are going to test it based on general election. You know, the general election will take place in all polling units recognized by INEC in the nation. Okay, so we are going to, it might not be all the units, but let's see what happens. It might take all the units, but then whatever yardstick we are going to do is going to capture virtually all the zones and all the registration area to ensure that when feeds are coming in from these various points, we will now, test run to see how effective the system will be able to capture them, so that the issue of hitch, as the case may be, might not come up. So even if it comes up, we should be able to detect where it came from and take care of it, so that during the general election we will not experience it. So that's what we are about doing. So it's not the real election, but it's for us to test what we have, because we have been carrying out a lot of upgrades and improvements in the system. So this is a good time for us to actually do it. Yes, in that statement of the chairman, I said yes, although this is going to cost us some money, but then it is worth it.
Where's the money coming from, considering that it was also not put in the budget of the commission? So where's the money coming from?
It is very important. Remember, the chairman definitely, I remember in one of the sections we had in defense of the budget, they promised that, look, whatever it takes for him to succeed, that he will get the support.
Okay. All right. You also made mention of the fact that, this might not be in all areas, but in all polling units, there will be, a representation there. So my question is, do you think that this is an efficient system that you can use to test run the efficiency of this technology that will be deployed during this election? Because how many Nigerians are willing to come out for these mock elections? The idea of fixing the IREV, fixing the beavers, was because of it was taking a lot of load for 2023 elections. You said that to us, during the last interview. So if a lot of people don't come out now for this test run, how can we know the level of pressure that this technology can withstand? All right,
to answer that, probably maybe if an expert in that area, but at least to my own knowledge of the use of technology in other things, let's take, for example, now there are some organizations now, maybe they want to do something and they'll say, okay, we will be going online, use our online platform to do it. Then you see everybody, because a lot of persons are interested in that thing. So they just go online at once. Then you now see there's a jam in the network.
Yeah.
Are you getting it? So for those probably they might find it easy. Maybe people will just decide to go off peak period where they know others are sleeping. So the network will have less traffic or things like that. But then we are ready for it. And like I said, it depends on what the department involved in it, those in our technical team or department, they are going to use something that definitely we take into consideration that represent every corner, every geographical region of this nation, so that it will definitely simulate to give us what will actually happen on election day in terms of these technologies we are using in the deployment as it's going to be on election day, so that yes, we'll get the real impact of how it's going to affect it. So however they are going to deploy that or do it is left to them. But that's one thing the commission assures that they will definitely try, so that we will not have the experience we had before.
We're really hoping, because
yeah, of course,
hoping,
is hoping for that.
All right, now the law requires that funds for the election be released 6 months before the election, and by arithmetic, that is right now July for the presidential elections. We want to ask if these funds have been released, because we know that it will play a very huge role in the preparations for the elections. You spoke about logistics.
So talking about funds, you just mentioned how many months to the election, and that's 6 months. That gives you about how many days roughly?
No, there are still days.
No. So I'm just letting you know that in terms of the release of funds, the aspect of the law has not been violated. Okay. So for the commission, they've started doing what they're supposed to do. All right. So in terms of that, let me just use that. No shaking.
No shaking.
But have you gotten the
funds?
I just said no shaking. The commission is working
to get the funds.
No, I'm not saying commission is working. I said no shaking. What does that mean? Everything
you are certain is in order.
Is in order.
Okay.
All right. You looked at the previous elections recently, the FCT polls, the Ekiti state election, the Anambra state election as well.
Yeah.
Of course, the Osun state election preparations are almost complete right now. What are maybe 3 concrete lessons, from these elections that have already changed the way INEC is preparing for the 2027 elections?
All right, let's, just like the chairman of the commission will always say, for you to really determine how successful the election will be, it depends on how early enough your logistic arrangements are in place and to ensure early opening of poll. In short, when you don't open early enough, it creates tension already, even for the adult personnel themselves. So that is why the issue of this discussion around logistic is so critical. All right, and in Anambra, I remember the chairman just resumed and has to be in Anambra for that readiness assessment where he personally engaged this transport owner. We have this MOU with transport union, especially National Union of Road Transport Workers and the National Association of Road Transport Owners and the Road Transport Employers Association of Nigeria, as well as those in charge of the maritime and transport as well. And why we engage them to let them know, it is not because in this process, it's not just about the business. You are our partners. In short, when you're doing this, apart from what you're going to make in terms of whatever you're going to get in payment, also look at it as a way of contributing towards the democratic process. So by the time in their own actions, whether directly or indirectly, they sabotage the process, they've not actually lived up to the expectation of them. So that's why we engage them seriously, so that they shouldn't look at it, because anything that seems to create a lull within that period of movement, it creates the aftermath effect, goes a long way to affect how the election will be conducted. Aside that, from the commission side, because the commission deploys everything in terms of resources to ensure that this thing goes on well, but at times you find out that those we engage somehow don't look at it the way we also do it. Some might be planned, while some unknowingly things just happen the way it is. But then that's why we have created some levels of checkmates in terms of monitoring how we deploy and how this thing goes. Then two, yes, let's look at people's attitude too. For the commission, some people will say, why can't the commission get its own vehicles and things like that? No, we can't just keep thousands of vehicles. Let us look at the best practice as found all over the world. In some places, they don't even bother. They just go through some freight companies to do that for them. But in Nigeria, because of our mindset and the way we are, that's why you see during elections, there's lots of deployment of security agencies and things like that. You think we are going to work businesses, in short, business, no business that day. There's restriction of movement and things like that. This is not supposed to be. Election is not war. Election is a civil process. Right. So ordinarily on election day, which we normally use as Saturdays, you can go to wherever you find the polling, you do what you're doing, you go for your business. But then, if we try that, we know that a lot of hitches will be here and there. And that's why I say, okay, fine, let there be a standstill so that we can easily monitor, so that people will have the chance for them to be able to go. But for this particular one, we have actually, over time, haven't seen the way things go. That was why the commission came up with this arrangement of having what we call the registration area centers, where our officials and the materials they're using for the election, they are camped in a particular point in a particular local government, because local governments are shared into what we call wards. In INEC term, we call them registration area. So within the registration area, there's what we call the registration area center, where the personnel for the election, as well as the materials for the election the next day, they are camped. Okay, so that point also gives us another edge. At that location too, we are able to take stock of the materials given to these officials. The officials also go through what we call refresher training, especially with the technology involved. The technical officers are there to train them more again on the use of the beavers and how to upload their results. And the ballot paper, result sheets and everything, they are also there a night before. They will go through it and see what has been given. If there are shortfalls, it is immediately escalated. Then that this thing, if probably there was a mix-up somewhere, it is taken care of immediately. And if there is shortfall, it is supplied, given to them. Then if there are shortfall even in the personnel, then from the extra trained, it is now made up for before the next day. And also from that point, it's expected that all vehicles that will be deploying staff to the polling units also come there, so that very early in the morning, they start moving from there to the polling unit, so that, give or take, if they follow this outline pattern and templates we have designed, no official is supposed to get to their polling unit later than 7 a.m.
Okay, on election day.
On election day, except those areas with very difficult terrain, because there are some places, apart from the terrain, also for security reasons, you cannot come them closer to where they are going to, conduct the election. So what they need to be in another space where we are sure of their security. Then very early in the morning, together with security personnel, they will start taking them to their polling unit. So let's give or take maybe maximum 7:30. They should be able to arrive there. If other human factor that is unforeseen is not taken into account. So at best, by 8:30, which is the official time for the opening of poll, everyone is supposed to be there. So
just picking a leaf from what you've said right now. Let's go back again to the mock election that you're talking about.
All right.
These are some of the challenges you've highlighted. Now, just give us an overview. How will this mock election work? Will the Nigerian citizens participate? Will political parties participate? Are you going to have this ad hoc staff, in various polling units, present for this mock election? How is it going to work, basically?
All right. So what will happen? Let me give you an example of where we have actually carried out mock elections. Okay, for example, let's take FCT. We did. AKT, we also did that. So what happens is that for the identified polling units we are going to use that will represent the general ones, are you getting it? Yeah. They are going to have the set of the presiding, the assistant presiding officers, they will be there. Are you getting it? Then we will have our results. Register. Register is printed. So we will now identify in that area, it is now, publicity is now made for people who register within those units. So some days before then, remember these things will take place at the various polling units. And these polling units are within the registration area in a particular local government area. So we engage the electoral officers in those LGAs to sensitize the stakeholders. They call them for a meeting. Please tell your people within this registration area or this particular for them to come out on so day. We want to try and see how these equipments you are having will work on election day. So we sensitize them. So they all come out. But whoever they are going to vote for, we are not using any of the registered political parties.
Okay.
We simply have dummy ballot paper. Yes, that doesn't have any of the political. So those dummies. So it's not left for them to pick whichever they want to, in case they want to vote. Or better still, it is just for them to do their accreditation. All right. So when they do their accreditation and things like that, remember the beavers is not a voting machine. Beaver is just an accreditation device. Okay, so it accredits the voter, the cross-check and everything. And the information from the beavers is now uploaded on the IREF. Okay, so they just take, remember, there's another thing. We'll have a dummy result sheet where we cannot take record of total persons who came out to do accreditation is recorded. It is scanned. It is the scanned information on that dummy result sheet that is uploaded on the IREF. That's the electronic transmission we talk about. So it is the ability of what has been scanned to upload on the IREF and external persons now who we are not at that point to view it in good time that we are looking at.
Okay.
So it is where there's difficulty now in that upload and us viewing it that causes the glitch. So that is what we want to test run and see where it's coming from. So that at least over 90-something% on election day should be able to fly without issues, so that it will not be probably, because we are not going to say everything is going to be 100%. There might still be some challenges arising from technical delays and things like that. Because yes, no matter how efficient the system works, there might still be that delay. There might be downtime in some area, and maybe in some localities they might not have the network as robust as it is in other areas. So they probably have to move from that location to another one in order for things to work out very fine.
All right. While it is very fantastic that we are making preparations regarding fixing the technology and making sure that it works, I think there's also a very critical part that we need to pay attention to, which you pointed out for the Ekiti elections. And according to INEC, you said that you named vote buying, including vouchers redeemed, vouchers redeemed from polling units, specifically to dodge detection as one of the worst features of the Ekiti elections. While we have taken care of technology, how does INEC plan on taking care of vote buying? Because it looks as though the tactic is evolving faster than the countermeasures.
All right. The issue of vote buying is not just an issue of INEC alone, right? On the side of INEC, for our responsibility, yes, we are the election management body. So we have actually put in place measures to ensure that as a voter, when you come in to do your accreditation, as you are going to, do your thumbprint, the ballot paper that will be given to you will be pre-folded in a way that as you pre-fold it, you go straight into the voting cubicle. We have what we call voting cubicle,
Okay.
right? So the voting cubicle ensures that no one sees who you are going to, vote for. And once you do that, it's expected the way the ballot paper has been given to you. You also fold it that way, then you come out in the open to drop it in the ballot box. All right. But what I found out in over time is that most persons, because already what they know what they want to do, once you give them the ballot paper, they just open it. They don't even bother. As they thumbprint, they hold it as if the thing is hot. They don't want to. And by so doing, they've already shown, yes. There's little that INEC can do because our own representative in the field is the presiding officer and their assistants. They are too busy on their desk to now start looking at who is paying who. Remember, yes, maybe those who are buying it or those who want to trade theirs or something like that, they might not be within the include, but that is why we have the security agencies. It is their responsibility to identify anyone flouting any of these rules of the game to get that person arrested, and therefore their investigation will take place, and so that if possible prosecution can also take place as well. So we have provided all these means in order to show. That was why there's an arrangement of how a polling unit should be, a typical polling unit that will definitely protect the secrecy of the vote, as well as no one knowing what they want to. But then you still find out that a lot of persons don't want to follow. Even as INEC is trying to do everything possible to ensure vote trading doesn't take place, the people themselves are not willing to go by it. The voters, some voters, and some of those collaborators who want to buy it. But one good thing about vote buying that people don't seem to know is this is vote buying became possible because of the system. If the vote doesn't count, nobody will buy the vote. I want us to know that. So especially for those people who say their vote doesn't count, it counts. That's why they are buying it. That's why they come after you. So for those of you who say your vote don't count, so what you do by helping the system too is to also vote and ensuring that you don't sell your vote, and also put your eye down. Like they say, if you see something, say something. Because it's not just INEC alone. We can't just do it alone. All hands have to be on deck. And remember, it's part of our civic duties to ensure that we uphold every law of the land. Are you getting it? Right. So in the same way also, it affects the electoral process. So the best we can do is to let you know that vote buying is not good because you are selling your conscience. I don't know how much they're going to pay you or the person is going to offer you. But that, is it worth the next 4 years? Can it take you for them? So if someone is giving you, even if it's 50,000 naira for your vote, know that your vote is worth more than that 50,000 naira. Because the person will never give you more than what your vote is worth. Okay. Are you getting it? So that means there's something important about that vote. That's why they are buying it. So for you, don't even sell it. Our eyes will not be everywhere. We are just about 15,000 in the commission altogether nationwide. And we need over 1 million persons to assist us during election day. So, and these persons we source only when we want to do election. And these persons, they are amongst you. You are the ones too that if tomorrow anything goes by the election, you still be the one who want to accuse INEC. And meanwhile, you were part of the whole process that's scuttled it. So it's just a clarion call.
But did you do a training for those that you source outside?
Of course. The commission doesn't play with training. Yes, and we have the Electoral Institute that does this training. They have their records of everything, and it's a very robust program they have for them. And also, even if you look at what they're supposed to do, because everybody says, did they train them on people? See, our first line of choice for personnel is even core members. Are you getting it? So if you look at who are core members, ordinarily, these are graduates. So it's expected they've had the least training. That means these persons have gone through secondary school and further at least 4 years. Look, let's just look at it the way it is. At least 4 years you have been trained. So it's expected that high level of already what is it called now? Source of manpower is there already. That just need little orientation for them to be able to, because the Beavers operation is not as sophisticated as what in most of the mobile phones most of them use. Okay, so with all this in mind, so that, but then when you come to most times the training venue and things like that, some of them are so, they are lackluster attitude towards the training. They don't listen with their mobile phones and things like that. But then the commission is also, just as they are doing their Gen Z thing, we're also going ahead too. There will be also an e-format of the training for them, so that no matter what, even if they don't listen to the direct class like that, but at least something will be in their phones for them to keep up with what we are doing. So as expected too, election, because of the way Nigeria is, the tension around to also make some of them to make certain mistakes and things like that. And not to forget some of these are stakeholders, the political class, and with their plan B too on how to do things like that. So we are matching them. And so, but it's in the success of it will be for everyone to really play their role, and everything will be fine.
How long is this training?
It's a minimum of 3 days.
All right.
It's a minimum of 3 days.
All right. So I just wanted to ask the same question a lot of Nigerians would be asking. PVCs, continuous voter registration.
Yes.
We have, other things that can continuously be registered for, like the NIN and other, documents like that.
Yes.
Why does the PVC have a time when it closes for registration?
Okay. When people try to compare INEC cards with other agencies' cards and things like that, I laugh, because the use of INEC cards is different from the function of the voter card is different from what you use your national ID card for, what you use your ATM card for, what you use your tax card for. Ours is for the conduct of election, for us to identify that you are a registered voter and should be able to exercise your franchise, okay? And because we have certain timelines and activities, and because of what the law says about certain activities, so when we want to do it, we have to put a stop to those we enroll, so that we'll now know we have a standard register that has been integrated, that has been made public. So we cannot add or remove from that register until we are done with the exercise we are going to use that register for. So that's why we stop at certain points. Then we'll continue once we know we are through with the electoral. We have an electoral cycle. Okay, so one of them now is what we are about going towards, which is 2027. So now that so why we don't even open it that way too is that there are some of these elections. After the elections, there are bound to be some litigations here and there, and this register is also tendered in the courts as evidence. So based on that, we cannot start adding, so that even if we start doing it, some people will not believe it is what we have. They do so. INEC has gone to tamper with the record. So that's how we just fine. When this is happening, we'll just wait until we are through. When we're through, we'll continue. And also, the continued voter registration doesn't mean it has to be continued. Before now, what we used to have is, as election is approaching, the entire register is carried out all over again, registration process. Are you getting as in? So, but since 2011, that was stopped. What we now do, we continue to update it. Then as soon as we are done, we know we are not having any activity that will involve the register. The registration process will continue. So as you just turn 18, you go to INEC office to carry out your registration. And I would say, coincidentally, this last phase for the CVRO, apart from the extension by 2 weeks that was given, one thing that was also done too was that before now, as a first-time registrant, you can do your pre-online registration, then go to INEC designated centers to complete your registration. But this time around, you don't need to go to any INEC office. You can complete your registration online. In other words, your biometrics can be done online as well, using your mobile phone, any other device that is enabled to do finger capture, that has finger capture ability. So that's one good thing. And like you made mention, on Sunday it's going to end, which is 26, and that is the last day for anyone who wants to do it. So for those that are listening wherever they are in the world, even if you are not in Nigeria right now, and you want to register, probably before the general elections, you might be in the country to be able to exercise your franchise. Just go online, cvr.inecnigeria.org. Follow the prompt. But then, if you are doing it online, you must have a verifiable NIN, the National Identity Number. It's a prerequisite for you to complete your registration online. Yes, so that's just it. But if not, if you don't have it, that means you need to come to an INEC designated center to be able to do that for those who don't have their NIN.
All right, quickly before we go on a break, don't you see that there is quite a gap here? Because think about it, Mr. Wilfred. I get to the voting age in December.
Yes.
It's already closed. I cannot exercise my franchise, even though I have gotten to the voting age before election time. Is that fair to those people who are looking forward to be a part of the elections for the first time?
Yes, okay, let's, that's why it is not just about when INEC comes out with their an outline of programs. I want everybody to also see what the law says about the conduct of elections. INEC is a product of the law. So whatever we do is guided by the law. So the law provides that 90 days to the election, everything concerning registration, anything that has to do with the registration, for us to collecting the data, processing the data, and the process of also giving out the PVCs, also the display of the register, all these things should be done not later than 90 days to the election. I want us to take note of that. Not later than 90 days to the election. He didn't say it must be 90 days to the election. It must stop 90 days. He didn't say it must stop 90 days. He said not later than. Because that's where some persons want to say, they'll take INEC to court and things like that. But in the end, they just find out. So the commission puts all this in place because now that everyone is coming, we are picking up their data. Remember, we are going to verify them before they are formally integrated into the National Register of Voters. And before we do that, we do what we call display. There's a minimum days requirement for us to do that. Then we do that. The commission has to go through all these submissions and complaints. And thereafter, when they are done, before they are fully integrated, then the commission will now go ahead to now produce the PVCs for these individuals. And remember to now send them to the state. So the commission needs time to do that because there's a procurement process. So this is what we look at now before you will now find out that all this period, because there is also already a timeline for it, that now takes us to now meet up with the provision by the law, which is 90 days to the election. All right. So these are some of the things. Those are one thing I want us to know. That is why for example, now there's somebody who is going to be 18 on the 27th, but that person cannot register.
No, that's so unfair. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Wilfred. If you are just joining us, we're talking about the 2027 elections and INEC's preparedness for the elections. We've had Mr. Wilfred Ufoga. We'll go out on a very quick break, and when we get back, we'll keep up with the conversation. Please stay with us. Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. We're still having conversations about the 2027 elections and INEC's preparedness. Thank you so much, Mr. Wilfred, for joining us on the conversation. Now, one of the major concerns that INEC have spoken about is about the cleanup of the register, and INEC said that according to them, there were duplicate registrations, underage registrations, diseased persons rather still on the list. And according to you, if these still persist in the register, it undermines trust and, it undermines the process in itself. What has INEC done to address this particular concern?
All right. I think on this particular issue, I would want to take us back how we started, okay? When we started this digital process. Actually, it started in 2002, all right, when we started with the OMR reform. And that has its own challenges and setbacks. So we have to use another method, which is a direct data capture process. In 2006, we started with that process. And thereafter, that one has its own weakness. There were a lot of anomalies in the register where people scan photographs of even celebrities in other parts of the world as registered voters in Nigeria. And then in 2011, we now started with this particular register we are having now. Okay, and when this registration was done, the 10 fingerprints of the voters were taken using the scanners. As at that time in 2011, we had these small devices, and the commission actually deployed registration devices in all the polling units we had in Nigeria then, over 120,000. Okay, where then we even recruited ad hoc staff for us to do that thing within a period of about 14 days, and there was later on that period for a makeup exercise. But a lot of processes were not taken into consideration because there were situations where the finger scanners couldn't identify the prints of some persons, where people even made fun of some persons saying that they don't have blood in their body, that's why their prints were not appearing. And somehow most people abuse the privilege of overriding that particular feature there. So, and even for photographs of some of these persons too, they were not properly taken, some were blurred and things like that. So I think around that 2013 or 2014 or 15 or thereabouts, there was when we now apply what they call the business rule, where we now said, no, let us sanitize this register. So that was done. That was when, and the cards we were using then, the PVCs, that was how this permanent voter card thing came. The PVCs had a chip it has an antenna where it is readable by the smart card reader. You see, that actually, brought some sanity in the accreditation process. All right, but because on election day, I was duly registered, but I come to the polling unit, I have my card. All right, but the system the smart card couldn't read my information because one, the fingerprints were not properly captured, the photographs were not, properly taken and things like that. So the smart card reader couldn't identify these persons. That was how the issue of the incident form now came about for these individuals because their name is in the register, quite all right, but the electronic device couldn't recognize them. So we came up with the incident form. But guess what? People decided to abandon the electronic form and decided to go with the incident form. And you know what that means? Everything goes. Whether the people were there or not, accreditation takes place and you see multiple voting, the snatching of ballot boxes still prevail and things like that. And so, we continue to monitor and watch the program. Then as we approached through various cycles of election, which are off normal general setting we have, we improved and that's how the beavers came in. So the beavers has the ability to recognize both your fingerprint and your photograph. So there's no way you cannot be identified except you were not properly registered. Okay. So that was how the beavers came, and it was during the beavers' ability to put some of all these what is it called now? Excesses in terms of fraudulent ways of getting accreditation. That was when vote buying started. Are you getting it? So right now, what we are doing is everyone has to be registered properly with the fingerprints captured. For example, now for the commission, we use the 442 scanner, which is a high definition scanner. So it gets everyone's information stored in the system, including your facial recognition. So that's why if you're going on election day now, you find out that even the officials, they are more comfortable using the facial recognition, and because it's very difficult not to recognize you, except there's a feature on your face that has actually disfigured in that face. Yes, I had that experience. I thought it was in 2022. There was a lady who came. She wanted to do a transfer. Okay. Yes, and the system, we're trying to check. The system couldn't, because we're using a normal pad. We couldn't recognize her immediately. So we now use her VIN to check. Her picture came and her face was clean, but currently she had an accident and it ain't been discussed. So it is the INEC official then, and because there is a point where, yes, when you see certain things, you can override and make sure the new feature is not taken care of. So that now brings us to the issue of the registers we have. Because this register we currently operate on started from 2011, so nothing has changed. So because of some of these anomalies in terms of some persons because their names were not properly entered, they have come to do another registration. Some persons in the first registration, their fingerprints were not properly captured. They went to do another one. There are some persons who did, they relocated. So instead of them saying, "No, I relocated, let me just do transfer," because of that, they went to do another registration. So lots and lots like that. Then there are some persons, so you can't tell me that since 2011 to now, all the persons in the register, they are all still alive. No. So we still have pockets of persons like that in our register. Are you getting it? So, and that has actually made a bit bloated. That's why at times when people say, "Oh, voter apathy," I'm not like, but on election day, still see people. So where is the voter apathy thing coming from? So I know the chairman actually recognizes, and that was why the issue came up then that there should be a revalidation of registration status of all registered voters. Let them come out, a kind of liveness check, let's put it that way, which is currently in vogue now in terms of technology of getting people verified. Let us do it round so that we know these are the persons ready to come out on election day. Because as it is, there are some persons who just got the INEC card just because they want. It was another easy way of getting an something to identify you. They ask you for an identity then. So a lot of persons did that, not minding whether they are going to use it to vote or not. But if we had done this revalidation, it would have gone a long way for us to really know the total number of registered voters who are willing to come out to vote on election day. And that will in turn help us to, reduce the costs we spend on the production of ballot papers and the preparation we make. Because whether we like it or not, this current register that we're going to use for the general election might go over 100 million because we're about 90-something million already. And that what it means is that during the general election, for every ballot paper we are printing, depending on the office, we have to do nothing less than 100 million. And at the end of the day, maybe you find out that maybe 30 or 40 million comes out to vote. So what about the 60 million excess ballot paper? That's wastage. So, but then when we came up with it, some pences flew with it. Oh, INEC is trying to disenfranchise. No, that wasn't it. That was in the picture of
Do you think that enough information,
no,
like how
because
you've explained it right now, was
fine.
put out in
you
the
know,
social
it
space?
was a memo. We had already designed how it's going to be, but you trust Nigeria. A lot of person, you know, there was this trust deficit already. Okay, trying to let people this is what we want to do, but they never. You know, some persons don't want to believe. But I think the only thing I know the commission came to, well, it's just too close to election. People will think there's something ahead. Let's just leave it. After the election, we go about our business on trying to clean up our registers.
All right. I think our time is fast spent already. Thank you so much, Mr. Wilfred Ifoga. If you're just joining us, we have been speaking with Mr. Wilfred Ifoga. He is the Deputy Director, Information and Publicity for INEC. So, I mean, you can take whatever he has said to the bank. I mean, you heard it from him directly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much again. And we're hoping that the process, you know, gets as seamless as possible. We'll have you again before the elections.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
All right. Over to myself and Victor. What are your thoughts?
Interesting conversation that we've had, basically. Just recently as well, I read that the INEC chair, you know, said that electoral credibility is a shared responsibility involving INEC, political parties, security agencies, and civil society development partners and citizens, basically calling for all stakeholders to put their hands together and ensure that we have a more free and credible election, which I think is a good call, basically. But one of the things I really like INEC to do is that orientation. It has to be on a constant basis, right? Not just a one-off, not just before the elections, not just during the election process. It has to be something that is constant so that Nigerians can as well get to be more acquainted with the processes that is going on within the commission, right?
Well, I think you have said it. Mr. Wilfred has also said, like, the most important thing. If we're trying to solve the problem of vote buying, it's not just for INEC. We also have a part to play. We have a responsibility in that your vote is important. Do not sell it to anybody. And if it is not important, it will not be bought. That's one fact that we also need to put in focus. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. Definitely had an amazing time on the show. Just to remind you, we are active across social media platforms and Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, and on X it is at RapidTV. Our YouTube page is at official RapidTV. The purpose of this information is specifically to educate you. Please do well to share the links with your friends and family just so they understand. And then www.rbnradiotv.com allows you to connect with us from anywhere in the world. A recent addition, we're now on free TV, which means you can download the app on your iOS and Play Store and search for RapidTV and connect with all our fantastic programs right here on air. My name is Martha Alu.
And my name is Victor. Okay, we will see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.